I always knew my family would try to take everything from me. I just didn't expect them to be so brazen about it. We're giving your room to Iris, my mother announced, delicately dabbing her mouth with a napkin as if she hadn't just dropped a bomb at my dining room table. My dining room table in my house. I'm Denise, and this is the story of how I destroyed my family. They'll tell you I betrayed them, but they threw the first stone. They just didn't expect me to throw back harder. I'm sorry, what? I set down my fork, the salmon I'd spent hours preparing suddenly tasteless in my mouth. Through the window behind them, I could see the lake shimmer in the sunset, the view I'd worked 2 jobs for 6 years to afford. Your father and I sold the house, Mom continued, her practiced smile never wavering. We're retiring early, and this lovely cottage of yours is perfect for our golden years. Dad nodded, already helping himself to seconds. Makes perfect sense. You're single, working all the time. You don't need all this space. My sister Iris bounced in her chair, her eyes gleaming. I can finally use that spare bedroom for my art studio. This place has such better light than my apartment. I felt my hands go cold. This is my house, which we co-signed for, Mom reminded me sweetly. Remember how grateful you were when we helped you get approved for the mortgage? Of course I remembered. I remembered every detail of that day, including the extra paperwork my friend Jessie had insisted I have them sign. The documentation they hadn't bothered to read because, well, why would they? I was reliable, Denise. Responsible Denise. The one who'd worked through college while Iris found herself in Europe on their dime. When are you thinking of moving in? I asked, keeping my voice steady. We've already started packing, Iris clapped. The moving truck comes next Tuesday. I called dibs on the master bedroom, but don't worry. We'll help you move your stuff to the smaller room, or you could always move in with Ryan. Ryan and I broke up 3 months ago. Oh, Iris blinked. Well, there's always room at my place. I stood up, gathering plates. In the kitchen, I could hear them planning, my mother discussing curtain colors, my father talking about converting my home office into his man cave, Iris going on about her vision for a creative space. Denise, Mom called out, don't forget to wrap up that salmon for us. It'll make a nice lunch tomorrow. I gripped the counter, remembering the day I'd first seen this house. The realtor had warned me it was a fixer-upper, but I'd fallen in love with the worn wooden floors, the way morning light spilled through the bay windows, the quiet lap of water against the shore. I'd spent weekends painting, refinishing, making it mine. Of course, I called back, my voice honey-sweet. I'll pack it up right now. My phone buzzed, a text from Jessie. Did they show up for dinner? Yes, I typed back. They just told me they're moving in, taking over the house. 3 dots appeared immediately. Remember that contract? Oh, I remember. I smiled, thinking of the thick manila envelope in my safe upstairs. They have no idea what's coming. When I returned to the dining room, they were already dividing up my space. Mom was measuring the walls with her eyes. Dad was talking about where his recliner would go, and Iris was snapping photos for her Instagram. This is going to be perfect, Mom sighed contentedly. You've always been so good at taking care of us, Denise. I sat back down, watching them plan their invasion of my home, my sanctuary. They'd always seen me as the reliable one, the responsible daughter who would sacrifice everything for family. They thought they knew exactly who I was and what I would do. They were about to learn how wrong they were. More wine, anyone? I offered, already reaching for the bottle. After all, we had so much to celebrate. The next morning I woke to the sound of boxes being dragged across my porch. Iris had already let herself in with the spare key I'd stupidly given her for emergencies. Morning, she chirped, dropping a heavy box labeled Essential Oils in my living room. Mom and Dad are bringing the U-Haul around noon. I thought I'd get a head start. I stepped over her box, making my way to the coffee maker. You do realize I haven't agreed to any of this. Oh, come on, Dee. She followed me into the kitchen, perching on my counter like she used to when we were kids. Don't be difficult. You know how Mom and Dad get when things don't go their way. Like when they bought you a car after you totaled mine. She rolled her eyes. Are you still bitter about that? It was 5 years ago. The coffee maker beeped. I poured myself a cup, not offering her any. I had to take the bus to work for 6 months. Well, now you won't have to worry about money at all. Dad says you can stay here rent-free if you want. Isn't that generous? My phone buzzed. Jesse was calling. Morning, warrior, he said when I answered. How are you holding up? My sister's already moving in. Perfect. Document everything. Take photos. Remember what we talked about. I walked to my home office, closing the door on Iris's chatter. I found the contract last night. It's exactly where you said to keep it. And they never asked for a copy? They didn't even read it. Dad just said, whatever you need, sweetheart, and signed where you pointed. Jessie laughed. Your father always did think he was the smartest person in the room. A truck horn blared outside. I peered through the window to see my parents pulling up in a massive U-Haul, right on schedule. They're here. Call Omar. Already did. He's ready whenever you give the word. I hung up as my mother burst through the front door, arms full of designer throw pillows. Denise, help your father with the furniture, and we need to discuss paint colors. This grayish simply won't do. I watched them for the next hour, documenting every box, every piece of furniture they brought in. Dad had already disconnected my TV to make room for his larger one. Mom was measuring for new curtains. Iris had somehow filled half my closet with her bohemian dresses. Sit down, dear. Mom patted the couch, my couch, around 2 p.m. We need to discuss the new arrangements. I sat. Dad lowered himself into my reading chair while Iris sprawled on the floor, scrolling through her phone. We've decided to be very generous, Mom began. You can stay in the small bedroom until you find a place of your own. No rush, of course. And no rent, Dad added, as if he was doing me a favor in my own home, though we'll need you to chip in for utilities and maybe groceries. Your mother's organic diet isn't cheap. What about my mortgage payments? I asked quietly. Dad waved his hand. We'll take those over, naturally. We've already talked to the bank about transferring the loan. Without consulting me? Don't be difficult, Denise. Mom sighed. We're your parents. We know what's best. I stood up, walking to my office. Behind me, I heard Iris whisper, She's just jealous because I'm getting the master bedroom. The safe was hidden behind a false panel in my bookshelf, something I'd installed the day after they signed the papers. The contract was exactly where I'd left it, pristine in its manila envelope. I pulled out my phone and texted Jessie. Green light! Then I called Omar. Ms. Woods, his smooth voice answered. Are you ready to proceed? They're all here. They've started moving in. Send it. The demand letter will arrive by courier within the hour. Do you want me to include the penalty clause details? I watched through my office window as my father struggled to maneuver his precious recliner through the front door. My mother was already replacing my family photos with hers. Iris had taken over my painting corner with her essential oil diffuser. Include everything, I said. It's time they learned what fine print looks like. I hung up and walked back to the living room, settling into my favorite spot by the window. Soon a courier would arrive with a very special delivery, and I wanted a front row seat for the show. The courier arrived exactly 47 minutes later. I watched my father sign for the envelope, still wearing the self-satisfied smile he'd had all morning. What's this? Mom asked, peering over his shoulder as he tore it open. I counted silently. 1, 2, 3. The sound of shattering glass made Iris jump. Mom's wine glass lay in pieces at her feet, red liquid seeping into my cream carpet. This has to be a joke. Dad's voice was deadly quiet. Denise. I stayed in my window seat, calm as still water. Yes? He thrust the papers at me, hands shaking. What the hell is this? That's the contract you signed when you co-signed my mortgage. I didn't bother taking the papers. The one that explicitly limits your role to financial guarantors only, with no claim to occupancy or ownership. Mom snatched the document, her perfectly manicured nails crumpling the edges. This is absurd. We're your parents. Keep reading, I suggested. The penalty clause is particularly interesting. Iris had finally looked up from her phone. What's going on? Your sister, Dad spat, had us sign a contract saying we can't live here, and if we try, we owe her $280,000. What? Iris scrambled up. She can't do that. Actually, I can. You'll notice the contract is notarized and you all signed it willingly. Jessie made sure everything was perfectly legal. Jessie? Mom's face darkened. That paralegal friend of yours? This was a setup? No, Mother, this was insurance. Because I knew someday you'd try something like this. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Omar, right on schedule. Good afternoon, he said smoothly, stepping inside. I'm Omar Lopez, Ms. Woods' attorney. I trust you've received our notice? Dad's face went from red to purple. We'll fight this. You're welcome to try, Omar replied, setting his briefcase on my dining room table. But I should warn you, attempting to contest this contract will only trigger immediate enforcement of the penalty clause, as will continuing to move in any belongings or attempting to establish residency. Mom collapsed onto the couch, her perfect posture crumbling. We sold our house. That sounds like a you problem, I said, echoing the words she had used when I'd begged for help with college tuition. You ungrateful little... Dad started forward, but Omar cleared his throat. I wouldn't recommend any threatening behavior, Mr. Woods. It would only strengthen our case. Iris was crying now, mascara running. What about my art studio? You have 24 hours to remove all your belongings, Omar stated. After that, anything left behind will be considered abandoned property. You can't do this to us, Mom whispered. We're family. I finally stood up, walking to the front door and holding it open. Family doesn't try to steal someone's home. Family doesn't treat their daughter like an asset to be liquidated. You taught me that actions have consequences. Consider this your lesson. This isn't over, Dad growled, grabbing his keys. We'll see what our lawyer says. Please do, Omar smiled. I look forward to it. They filed out one by one, Mom still shell-shocked, Dad practically vibrating with rage. Iris paused in the doorway. I always knew you were jealous of me, she hissed, but this is low, even for you. I closed the door behind them, watching through the window as they huddled around their phones, presumably calling every lawyer they knew. Well, Omar said, packing up his briefcase. That was refreshing. Most family disputes I handle drag on for months. You've managed to end this one in under an hour. They'll be back. Of course they will. But the law is on your side, and they signed away their rights in black and white. He handed me his card. Call me when they make their next move. And Denise, well played. After he left, I walked through my house, looking at the chaos they'd created in just a few hours. Boxes everywhere, their furniture mixed with mine, Mom's tasteless decorations already hanging on my walls. My phone buzzed with messages, threats from Dad, guilt trips from Mom, a long, rambling text from Iris about how I'd ruined everything. I blocked their numbers one by one. Then I called a cleaning service and ordered a large pizza. I had some redecorating to do. The backlash hit harder than I expected. By morning, my Facebook was flooded with relatives calling me heartless. Iris had posted a tearful video about how I'd stolen our parents' retirement dreams that got hundreds of sympathetic comments. My aunt called while I was at work. "Do you want your parents to go bankrupt?" she demanded, skipping hello. I kept typing my project report. "They should have thought about that before selling their house." "They're your family." "They're manipulative parasites who tried to steal my home," she gasped. "I'll pray for your soul." My colleague Sarah poked her head into my office after I hung up. "Everything okay? You look like you're ready to murder your keyboard." "Family drama." I forced a smile. "Nothing I can't handle." "Well, there's a client meeting in 10. The new real estate agent is here to discuss the downtown development project." The conference room was already full when I walked in. A man in a charcoal suit stood up, extending his hand. "Kevin Gross," he said. "I'm representing Summit Properties." His handshake was firm, his smile genuine. For the first time in days, I felt something other than anger. The meeting dragged on. Budget projection, zoning laws, timeline adjustments. I caught Kevin watching me several times as I presented my analysis. Afterward, he lingered while others filed out. "You look like you're holding a secret too heavy to carry," he said quietly. I laughed, surprising myself. "You have no idea." "Want to grab coffee and tell me about it?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. It was Jesse. "Your parents just tried to refinance the house," he said without preamble. "The bank called me since I'm listed as your legal contact." My blood ran cold. "What?" "They forged your signature on the application. I've already notified Omar and frozen all transactions." I turned to Kevin, who was still waiting. "Rain check on that coffee? I have to handle something." "Sure." He slipped me his card. "Call me when the storm passes." I drove straight to the bank, fury burning in my throat. The manager, Mr. Patterson, was expecting me. "Your father seemed quite convinced he had authority to refinance," he said, sliding documents across his desk. "He had all your personal information, even your social security number." "Of course he did. He's my father." I examined the forgery. It was good. He'd been practicing my signature for years on school permission slips. "We flagged your accounts for suspicious activity," Mr. Patterson assured me. "This won't happen again." My phone lit up with a text from Mom. "We were only trying to help you make a sound financial decision." I showed it to Mr. Patterson. "Would you like to see what helping looks like?" He grimaced. "I've already sent the attempted fraud documentation to your lawyer." Outside the bank, another text waited. "Your father's blood pressure is through the roof because of your cruelty. If he has a heart attack, it's on your hands." I typed back, "Forgery is a felony. Want to try for jail time too?" That evening I sat on my deck watching the sunset over the lake. A family of ducks paddled by, mother, father, 3 ducklings all in a row. Perfect little family unit. I wondered if the mother duck ever tried to steal her duckling's nest. My phone rang again. Unknown number. "Is this Denise?" A man's voice. "I'm calling about your parents' situation. They're devastated. Surely we can work something out." "Who is this?" "Pastor Mike from their church. They're good people who made a mistake." I hung up, blocked the number. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the lake orange and pink. My house stood quiet behind me, finally free of their boxes, their furniture, their suffocating presence. Another text from Mom. "We raised you better than this." No, they really hadn't. They'd raised me to be quiet, compliant, reliable, to put family first, to sacrifice everything for the greater good. Instead, I'd learned to be strong, to fight back, to protect what was mine. I poured myself a glass of wine and settled deeper into my deck chair. Let them send their flying monkeys. Let them cry to their church group. Let them play the victims. I had the law, the truth in this view, and I wasn't giving up any of them. The email arrived during my lunch break, sent from an anonymous account. Subject line, thought you should see this. Inside were screenshots of Iris's private messages, dozens of them. As I scrolled, my sandwich turned to ash in my mouth. Don't worry, Iris had written to her boyfriend Chaz 3 months ago. I convinced Mom and Dad to sell the house early. Denise will cave once they move in. She always does. Another message. Got the perfect blackmail pics from college. Remember that frat party where she got wasted? She'd die if those got out. And another. Mom and Dad think it's their idea, LOL. They're so easy to manipulate. Just had to cry about my artistic dreams and how the lake house would be perfect. My phone rang. Jesse. Did you get the screenshots? He asked. How did you? Let's just say Chaz isn't as loyal to Iris as she thinks, especially after she maxed out his credit cards. I stared at my computer screen. She planned this, all of it. Your sister's been playing chess while your parents played checkers, Jessie said, but neither of them knew you were playing both sides. I forwarded the emails to Omar, then printed everything. The stack of papers felt heavy in my hands, the weight of betrayal made physical. Sunday brunch was still happening at my parents' new apartment. They'd insisted on maintaining family traditions despite everything. I knew Iris would be there. She never missed a chance to play the victim. I arrived late, carrying a manila folder. Oh, she decides to grace us with her presence, Dad muttered from behind his newspaper. Mom was in the kitchen aggressively beating eggs. There's coffee if you want it, though you might steal that too. Iris sat at the table, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up. The prodigal sister returns. I set my purse down. I need to use the bathroom. In the hallway bathroom, I pulled out the folder and left it on the counter. On top, I placed a note. Thought you should see this, sis. Check your messages more carefully next time. Back at the table, I poured myself coffee and waited. I'll be right back, Iris announced right on cue. 30 seconds passed, then a minute. The bathroom door slammed open. Iris stormed out, face white, clutching the folder. You bitch! She screamed. You had no right! Inside voice, Iris, Mom scolded automatically. She's been spying on me. Iris threw the folder on the table, papers scattered everywhere. Dad picked one up. His face darkened as he read. What is this? Ask your precious baby girl, I said, sipping my coffee. Ask her who really convinced you to sell the house. Mom grabbed another paper. Her hand started shaking. Iris, what does this mean about manipulating us? It's fake. Iris was crying now, but not her usual pretty tears. These were ugly, panicked sobs. She's trying to turn you against me. Those are your messages, I said calmly. Your words, your plan. Dad was reading more screenshots, his face getting redder by the second. You told us the lake house was your idea? That we'd be fools not to take it? And the blackmail photos? Mom's voice was deadly quiet. You were planning to blackmail your own sister? Iris backed away from the table. You don't understand. She has everything. The house, the career, the perfect life. I just wanted to destroy mine. I stood up. To take what I worked for because you were too lazy to earn it yourself? I hate you, she screamed, grabbing her designer purse. I've always hated you. The door slammed behind her. In the silence that followed, I could hear Mom crying softly. Dad wouldn't look at me. I think you should go. Gladly. I gathered my things. By the way, those blackmail photos she mentioned never existed. But she sure convinced you I was the bad guy, didn't she? Outside, the morning was bright and clear. My phone buzzed, a text from Kevin. Still up for that coffee? I smiled for the first time that day. Sometimes karma needed a little help, but watching it work was always beautiful. Actually, I typed back, how about lunch? Iris disappeared after the brunch revelation. Her Instagram went dark, her phone disconnected. Mom called me 3 days later, her voice small and tired. Can we meet? Just us? I suggested the coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. She was already there when I arrived, looking older than I'd ever seen her. You're probably enjoying this, she said as I sat down. Actually, I'm not. I ordered a black coffee, but I'm not sorry either. She twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit I'd inherited. Your father lost everything. What? The business ventures he never told anyone about, the investments. She pulled out a stack of papers from her purse. We're over 100,000 in debt. The house sale barely covered half of it. I scanned the documents, loan agreements, credit card statements, collection notices. Dad's signature was on all of them. That's why we needed your house, she whispered. We have nowhere else to go. You could have asked for help instead of trying to steal my home. Would you have helped? She looked up, mascara smudged. After everything? We'll never know, will we? The waitress brought my coffee. Mom stared into her untouched tea. Iris called yesterday, she said finally. From Seattle. She's living with Chaz's cousin, working at a yoga studio. Of course she is. She said, Mom's voice cracked, she said we deserved each other, that we were all toxic and she needed to find her truth or something. I couldn't help laughing. Sounds like Iris. The deadline for your contract is in 5 days. She reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled back. Please, Denise, we can't pay the penalty. We'll lose everything. You already tried to take everything from me. We're still your parents. Are you? I stood up, leaving my coffee untouched. Because parents protect their children, they don't exploit them. What do you want? She called as I walked away. To destroy us completely? I turned back. You taught me karma isn't just a theory, it's a blueprint. And I built every nail you're now hanging from. That evening, Jesse came over with takeout and legal papers. Your father missed the settlement meeting, he said, spreading out containers of Thai food. Omar says we can file for immediate enforcement tomorrow. I picked at my pad thai. They're broke. That's not your problem. Mom came to see me today, showed me their debt. Jesse put down his chopsticks. Don't tell me you're feeling guilty. No. I walked to the window, watching the lake ripple in the darkness. I'm trying to decide if taking everything is enough or if I want them to keep just enough hope to torture themselves with. You're scary sometimes, you know that? My phone lit up. Kevin calling. Hey, he said when I answered. Bad time? Actually, perfect timing. Want to help me make a difficult decision? He arrived 20 minutes later with wine and a sympathetic ear. I told him everything while Jesse organized the legal papers. So, Kevin said after I finished, you can either take them for everything now or leave them just enough rope to hang themselves with later. I swirled my wine. The contract has a suspended penalty clause. I could activate it partially, leave them with a smaller debt they'd spend years paying off. Knowing they owe you, Jesse added. Knowing you could have taken everything but chose to show mercy they didn't deserve. Kevin leaned back. That's deliciously cruel. I learned from the best. I picked up my phone and called Omar. Make it 40,000, I told him. Payable over 5 years, and add a clause. If they ever try to contact me again, the full penalty activates immediately. After I hung up, Kevin raised his glass. To karma. To consequences, Jesse added. I looked out at my lake, my home, my life they'd tried to steal, to finally being free. Later that night, after they'd left, I blocked my mother's number and deleted all the family photos from my phone. Sometimes cutting ties isn't enough. Sometimes you need to burn the rope entirely. The courthouse was quieter than I expected. My parents sat 3 rows behind me, Mom in her Sunday best, Dad in his only remaining suit. They looked smaller somehow, diminished. Omar adjusted his tie. Ready? Born ready. The judge entered, a stern-faced woman in her 60s. She reviewed the documents silently while we waited. This is a straightforward contract enforcement, she finally said, though the family dynamics make it interesting. Your Honor, my father's lawyer stood up, a public defender who looked fresh out of law school. The contract was signed under false pretenses. The contract was notarized and witnessed, Omar interrupted smoothly. All parties were of sound mind. The terms were clearly stated. They're her parents, which makes their attempted theft of her property even more egregious. The judge held up her hand. I've reviewed the evidence, including the attempted fraudulent refinancing and the documented move-in attempt. The contract is valid and binding. I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. However, the judge continued, I see the plaintiff has amended the penalty clause from $280,000 to $40,000, payable over 5 years. Is this correct? Yes, Your Honor, Omar confirmed. A gesture of mercy, the judge noted, though her tone suggested she knew better. Very well, judgment for the plaintiff. The reduced penalty will be enforced with standard interest. I'm also granting the no-contact order as requested. Dad stood up suddenly. This is ridiculous. She's our daughter. Mr. Woods, sit down, the judge warned. Your parental status does not give you the right to steal property or commit fraud. We gave her everything. Mom's voice was shrill. Mrs. Woods, one more outburst and I'll hold you in contempt. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to see their faces to know what was happening. Mom's carefully crafted mask cracking, Dad's righteous anger crumbling. The judge's gavel came down with finality. Court adjourned. In the hallway, Iris was waiting. She must have slipped in during the proceedings. She looked expensive in a way that suggested Chaz's cousin was more than just offering a couch to crash on. Satisfied? She asked as I passed. Shouldn't you be finding your truth in Seattle? I came to watch the show. She fell into step beside me. You know, I always thought you were the weak one. Turns out you're just better at playing the long game. This wasn't a game. No? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then why do you look so happy? Before I could respond, our parents burst out of the courtroom. You've ruined us, Dad shouted. Are you happy now? Security guards turned their heads. Omar stepped between us. This is exactly the kind of behavior that justified the no-contact order, he said loudly. Shall I notify the judge? Dad deflated. Mom grabbed his arm, pulling him back. Come on, Don, she whispered. It's over. Iris watched them go, then turned back to me. You could have taken everything. I did. I headed for the exit. They just don't know it yet. Outside, Kevin was waiting by his car. How'd it go? Exactly as planned. I kissed him quickly. Ready for lunch? Actually, he pulled out an envelope. I have something better. Remember that lakefront property I mentioned? The one being developed into restaurants? I opened the envelope. Inside was a business proposal, a partnership opportunity for a new waterfront cafe. You said you always wanted to own a business, he continued, and I know a great project consultant who could help make it happen. I looked back at the courthouse. Through the glass doors, I could see my family huddled with their lawyer, probably trying to figure out how to pay the judgment. They looked like strangers. You know what? I took Kevin's hand. I think it's time for something new. Later that night, I sat on my deck watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessie. Heard about the cafe plan. Need a legal advisor? I smiled, typing back. Always. But this time, let's build something instead of burning it down. The lake sparkled like scattered diamonds in the fading light. Somewhere across the water, a new chapter was waiting, and this time I'd write it myself. The cafe's grand opening drew quite a crowd. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the lake shimmered in autumn sunlight. I'd named it Karma's Kitchen. Kevin thought it was hilarious. "Table 7 needs more coffee," Jessie called out, balancing plates of pastries. He'd insisted on helping today, claiming he needed a break from legal briefs. I was refilling sugar dispensers when I saw them. Mom and Dad standing awkwardly at the entrance. They looked older, grayer. Dad had lost weight. Mom's designer clothes had been replaced by department store basics. Kevin appeared at my side. "Want me to ask them to leave?" "No." I straightened my apron. "I've got this." They'd found a table by the time I reached them. Mom clutched her purse like a shield. "This is lovely," she said softly. "The cafe, it's really lovely. What do you want?" I kept my voice professional, like they were any other customers. Dad pulled out an envelope. "We brought this month's payment, wanted to deliver it in person." "The court ordered electronic transfers only." "We know." Mom's hands trembled. We wanted to see you." "The no contact order is still in effect." "Please," Dad's voice cracked. "We made a terrible mistake. We see that now." I looked around my cafe, the warm lighting I'd chosen, the local art on the walls, the happy customers enjoying the view I'd fought so hard to keep. "You didn't make a mistake," I said finally. "You made a choice. Several choices, actually, and now you're living with the consequences." "We miss you," Mom whispered. "You miss what you could get from me." I took out my order pad. "Now, would you like to order something, or should I have security escort you out?" They ordered coffee, black for Dad, soy latte for Mom. I had Jessie serve them while I worked the counter. Through the window, I saw Iris pull up in a shiny new car. She'd started some wellness influencer thing in Seattle. Apparently, betrayal made for great content if you spun it right. She walked in all yoga pants and green juice. "Cute place, sis, very quaint." "Thanks, we're fully booked." "Oh, I'm not staying." She glanced at our parents, who were staring into their cups. "Just wanted to drop off their mail. They're still using my P.O. box." "How generous of you." "That's me, the generous sister." She smirked. "Unlike some people." "Generous enough to tell them it was your idea to take my house?" Her smile slipped. "Ancient history. Like those credit cards you maxed out in Chaz's name?" She paled slightly. "How did you—" "I learned from the best, remember? About playing the long game." I leaned closer. "His lawyer should be calling you soon." She left quickly after that. Through the window, I watched her talk to someone on her phone, gesturing angrily. Kevin brought me a fresh cup of coffee. "You okay?" "Perfect." I kissed his cheek. "But could you ask the security guard to make sure my parents leave after they finish their drinks?" "Already on it." I spent the rest of the morning doing what I loved, running my business, serving customers, building something that was entirely mine. Mom and Dad left quietly, leaving an oversized tip I donated to the staff fund. That evening, as we were closing up, Jessie helped me count the day's receipts. "Your sister's wellness empire might take a hit when those fraud charges come through," he mentioned casually. "Karma's funny that way." "Speaking of karma," he nodded toward the window. "My parents were getting into their old car, not the luxury sedan they used to drive, but a used Honda with mismatched paint. They looked defeated, diminished. Everything they'd tried to take from me had slipped through their fingers instead." "Do you ever regret it?" Jessie asked. "Not taking them for everything?" I watched them drive away, remembering all the times they dismissed my dreams, exploited my reliability, tried to steal my future. No, I said, locking the cafe door. This is better. They have to live knowing I could have destroyed them completely, but chose not to, that I'm stronger than they ever thought I could be, and happier. I looked around my cafe, at Kevin cleaning tables, at the lake view I'd fought to keep, at the life I'd built despite them. Much happier, because I finally learned the truth about karma. It's not what happens to you, it's what you make happen.